Thanks for watching Backroads Tourist today. I'm Jeff, and I love visiting fascinating places across the United States and every now and then in other parts of the world too. Last summer, I had a chance to visit a place that I didn't know if I'd like it or not, but I wound up loving it. I hope you do too. The Vore Buffalo Jump site in eastern Wyoming is a hidden treasure for people like me who enjoy the unusual. You've probably seen artist depictions and heard stories of Native Americans who stampeded herds of bison, more commonly referred to as buffalo, off cliffs as a form of hunting. Well, several of these sites have been found in North America, including the Vore Buffalo Jump site, which was discovered in the early 1970s. The state was building Interstate 90, and when they did some exploratory drilling, they discovered a massive amount of bones. Because of this, that part of the interstate was moved a little bit to the south. The land was then given to the University of Wyoming, who later transferred it to the Vore Buffalo Jump Foundation, and they developed it into what it is today. The Vore Buffalo Jump site has 3 buildings, and each one is fascinating if you get into this kind of stuff. The first building is the entry building. This is where you pay your admission and browse around at some smaller exhibits. There's also a few things you can buy here, but really not too much. You can go on a self-guided tour or a guided tour, and just between you and me, I wouldn't even consider going on a self-guided tour. The tour guides here are a wealth of information, and they're happy to answer any questions you might have. In my opinion, a guided tour is the only way to go. After you leave the entry building, it's a short walk to the second building where you're going to find a lot of displays on early American life, the tools they used, the arrowheads and spearheads from different time periods, and a whole lot more. You're going to learn a little bit about the history of the Vore Buffalo Jump and the excavations too. One tidbit of information that really surprised me is that in the roughly 250 years it was used, there were only 22 times that buffalo were driven off the cliff, and it wasn't always done by the same tribes. Shoshone, Crow, Cheyenne, Apache, and others all used this location. And through amazing forensic investigation, they're even able to tell the time of year that the buffalo jumps were staged. Well, we're well on our way to the main attraction, the actual excavation site. But before we take that walk, I'd like to ask you to give this video a like if you find it interesting like I do. And remember that I go to a lot of quirky, offbeat places, and I'd love to take you with me. If you subscribe to the channel, you'll be among the first to know when new videos are uploaded. So click that subscribe button down there and come on along. It'd be great to have you as part of the Backroads Tourist family. Once you reach the building at the bottom of the pit, get ready to be amazed. Inside the building is the actual excavation area. It's estimated that only about 5% of the site has been excavated, but they've already removed about 10 tons of bones. They calculate that this site contains around 20,000 buffalo skeletons. Now, I'll tell you, this is the point where you're going to be happy that you've made the decision to have a guided tour. Your guide is going to tell you about how the actual hunt took place, about how they funneled the herd to the cliff, how they tried to separate the bull buffalo from the cows and calves because the cows and calves were more desirable. They'll even explain why many of the skulls they find have holes in them. It's because in order to tan a buffalo hide, they needed to use the brain, and that's how they got the brain. The excavation building also contains both models of teepees and a full-size teepee, along with other artifacts. There's also a hands-on exhibit where you can actually touch various buffalo bones. One of the things I found most interesting was the timeline of the hunts. Through intensive research and forensics, they've determined that the first buffalo jump was in 1554. The last one was in 1800. Based on the artifacts, arrowheads, and tools they found at the different levels, they can also identify which tribes were involved in the different hunts. With only 5% of the site uncovered, I think it's safe to say that there's a lot of new information that's yet to be discovered. No doubt this site is going to help us learn more about how indigenous people lived 250 to 500 years ago. I found this place fascinating. If this intrigues you too, you can find the Vore Buffalo Jump just off Interstate Highway 90, just west of the South Dakota-Wyoming border. It's midway between Spearfish, South Dakota and Sundance, Wyoming. If you're interested in visiting, you may want to make a note that this site is not open year-round, only from June through Labor Day. According to their website, they're open from 8 till 6 daily, but I would suggest checking out vorebuffalojump.org before you visit, just to make sure there aren't any changes. Remember, if you like visiting obscure places like this, make sure you subscribe to the Backroads Tourist channel. I also do videos on cruising, if you prefer that kind of travel. Hey, thanks for watching today. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you. I'm Jeff, and I'll see you on the Backroads.